Now we've heard from our partners on their post-COVID view. It's time to hear from our customers on what they expect from the near future and what kind of solutions that are in focus. So this is why we have invited a selection of our customers to join a discussion on what digital solutions that will be in focus and what they expect from a post-COVID world. So I'm very happy to welcome the following participants to this discussion. Mr. Johan Olstenius, IT Director of Magazine in Denmark. Geir Terjerud, CDO of NTB in Norway. Stefan Telhammar, Integration Manager at Scania in Sweden. And finally, Daniel Hederstedt, the Acting Department Manager within Data Science at Arbetsförmedlingen in Sweden. Welcome to all of you.
Thank you.
So to kick this discussion off, I have one first question for all of you. What do you think is the single most important thing that us working within IT and digitization will learn from the COVID pandemic? Let's start with you, Johan.
A good question. And I think we'll come back to it a little bit later. But this working at home, remote, is a very, very nice thing, very good. But we need to remember to join in the discussions at work or at customers, especially with your consultants. So actually it's going a little bit backwards and say, when do we need to be together with people, face to face, feeling what's happening?
Interesting. And what do you think, Kay?
I totally agree. It's coming back to the office. I mean, we had more or less half the department has been in the office more or less all the time because they asked to be there, and we can see so many good things by being there. I mean, sharing knowledge, sharing stories, sharing complaints. It's really good to be there, and we talk about the. I mean, not about raising competence all the time, but sharing competence, equalizing competence, and you do that by seeing people in person. You can learn a lot by 2 minutes by the coffee machine. So get people back to the office is the single most important thing.
Okay, interesting. And what do you think, Stefan, from Scania?
I agree as well. Working from home, and now when this situation probably going to be over in the world, how are we going to go back to the office? That will be the big question, because now we are used to work from home. And what kind of tools will we have in the future to work, distributed? Because we have an agile, way of working, where we're talking about co-location, teams, and how will we, implement them. So I think that will be the big question as well, the agile way of working, because we're used to stand in front of a whiteboard and looking at, the post-its, and even if you have a Jira tool or whatever, but I think that will be a big question. But what we have seen, we have increased, 30% efficiency. So that is also something that we need to consider, that we have increased it actually.
By working from home.
Yeah, working from home.
Okay, so that's the challenge then, to get
exactly.
back to the office,
so,
but maintain
how will it go down
efficiency.
or whatever? Yeah, exactly. Or it could be also that we have found other ways to do things that we can also take them with us when we're going back to the office. So I think that's something we need to consider.
And what about you, Daniel? What do you think?
Well, I think we have all started to think about what is a workplace. What is it that actually constitutes the environment that we're working in? Because a lot of people switched jobs during the pandemic. Okay, I'm still sitting in the same position. I'm staring at the same screen, and all of that's changed is basically the people on the screen. So in what context do I work? How do I feel the difference? And I think we are rediscovering that again as we now have the possibility to move back into the offices, because that used to be what was the company. It was the buildings. Now, of course it wasn't, but that is how we looked at it. So how are we going to look at it now when we actually have the possibility to choose which way to go? And I don't think we have the answer yet.
Interesting discussion. And moving forward, Johan Olstenius from Magazine, I know that you have a lot of experiences from IT turnarounds in general, but what do you think will be the most important turnaround or difference within our industry as we start moving out of this pandemic?
Yeah, I hear that we agree about my point from before, and actually turnaround is all about the change. Especially when we do integrations and technical work, you have all these good consultants working very deep and hopefully very nerdy into things. But the turnarounds, you need to gather the people. And as we agree, going back to the office, going back to old times with whiteboards and post-its, and actually having a discussion, a proper discussion over several iterations. That is for sure, again, the biggest challenge in turnaround, for sure.
Sounds like all of you miss going back to the office and meeting colleagues.
That is the key, actually. How do we interact with each other? Because the old traditional way, where we met in a conference room, we're starting to be to innovate and things like that. I think it's tricky right now.
And in a remote world, this discussion starts and ends. But in an office world, we start, we stop, we go to coffee, we go back, and there's a lot of post iterations that never happens in the Teams or Skype or Google world.
But there's one thing I think is really, really good, especially for me, who love to talk a lot.
I will stop you soon, Stefan.
That I had to, behave a little bit in the meetings, because when you're remotely, you don't interrupt, when you are face to face, because then you can see each other and see that, okay, I can interrupt.
So way of working is one interesting thing, and how we would work after post-COVID is something we can discuss. But also looking at technology and solutions, Gail, I know that you at NTB have started your cloud migration journey and also come a fair bit into this. I also know that you've started working with AI and picture recognition. Are cloud infrastructure and AI natural parts of digitization post-COVID, do you think?
I shall be a little bit careful. I mean, I'm the least technical person in most rooms, also with this panel. So but I can't actually see a possibility to do what we are doing now without working in the cloud. It's quite a lot of, we need a lot of machines and a lot of strange technology to do this without the system. I mean, we have something like 200 terabyte of pictures in the cloud, the same amount as, of course, that backup in Glacier, and we have, I think it's like 300-400 million copies of pictures. And when you work with this, it's like you should have some really strong, large machines if you want to work on this. And if you want to scan through all these pictures because you want to work on picture recognition, as we've done, it would take a lot of hardware and bandwidth to do that outside the cloud. So I don't think it's actually possible. So we are working now on all these pictures. I mean, we are adding something like 50,000 new pictures to our library every day. So I would say it's growing. It's like, and if we can help our customers in recognizing people in this library, it's fantastic. So by today, we recognize something like 15,000 different Scandinavians by picture. We're working on logos. Maybe we'll take Magazine and Scania up next. And it's and I think when we added the last 12,000 of those 15,000 people to our AI picture recognition system, I mean the cost, the Amazon cost, it was raised by something like $10,000 for 2 days of, I mean, heavily scanning through all these pictures, and then it's down to normal. And I think I can't imagine how we should have done that work, how long time it would have taken if we had worked on hardware. So I think without going too deep into technology, I don't think it's actually possible.
Okay, cool. So Stefan from Scania, I know that you at Scania have a vision to become the data-driven company. But what does that really mean, and what kind of initiatives have you started in that direction?
Honestly, I don't think we even know ourselves what that means. Okay. No, but what we're talking about is to have open and share data. I mean, as I said in your previous pod, when I was interviewed, that Scania doesn't know what Scania knows. And what I mean with that is that we have so much data that we produce every day, but they are in silos. If we open up all of these silos and we start to do data integration, then we will see how much we really know, even about ourselves, but also about our business. So that is what we're looking at. Okay. So we're going from traditional integration to data integration to open up these silos. You can do that with data lakes. Even data lake is another silos, and we see another solution in the future for that. So that's what we think.
Okay, cool.
Would it be hard to find a company that is not data-driven? I mean, it's like...
We always said data-driven since the 70s because it's zeros and ones.
Yeah.
But when we're talking about digitalization and that journey is more about open and share data and how we can take two data entities to make an information about it. So that is what we mean.
To make data available. Basically.
Yeah. So creating information and decouple infrastructure from the information.
So Daniel from Arbetsförmedlingen, I know that you at Arbetsförmedlingen has also started to look at how to use data more actively in decision making.
Oh yeah.
Which are the biggest challenges with this and what have you learned?
Oh, there's a lot of challenges. Actually, we were in the papers, in a good way actually, that's not always true for Arbetsförmedlingen. We were in the paper in a good way. A few weeks ago, you may have read it, because it said that Arbetsförmedlingen make better decisions with AI than with people. And that's very interesting. That's actually how I wanted it to look. I mean, working with data science, that is a headline you like. But there's a lot of problems within that, because what actually constitutes better? What is a better decision? How do you measure that? And that is the hardest part. If we look at the work that we did there were a lot of people involved. If we were a private organization, we would be talking about the IT and the business, if you like. With us, it was the analysis department, and of course the IT department, and a few others as well, that had to agree on what constitutes better. And we are not in total agreement yet. So that is actually us moving forward. We want to make an even better AI implementation the next step. So we make even better decisions. If we make better decisions, we are more efficient with the taxpayers' monies. And that's what we want to do. We want to be efficient. We want to actually produce value for all the things that we cost. But there is a problem with that, because we had a hard time defining what the first better was. What is the second better? And that is not a data-driven question per se. That is actually working with I'm not going to be able to say this in English, hypotheses. Hypotheser. And that is, and then you're working with people with different views, and trying to do that iteratively is a challenge. So as often, the technology is easy. It's people that are the harder parts.
It's interesting to see here how you do, because you're talking about data scientists and AI and how do you see the future? What kind of technology do you see that you will use? Because I know what we are doing right now, but it would be interesting to hear
what technology we're losing.
Yeah, that too.
Or choosing. What did you say? Choosing. Well, it's. I'm not going to go through the different AI frameworks that we're using because I don't have the knowledge depth to go through them. But we're looking at. Of course, it's the same. It's the same movement as has been done before. It's the least challenging work being moved away from the people and being automatical instead. And that is a challenge for us. But if you're looking at it from a country or a world perspective, it's an even bigger challenge. Because what happens is we're running out of simple jobs because all of the simple jobs are being automated. And that means that you're not going to be able to have a job unless you have that sort of training and that level of understanding. So what are we going to do with the people that don't have it? And that is the challenge that we need to address as a government agency. And I'm not sure there's a simple answer. So I'm looking at the even bigger picture.
Yeah. Good point.
So you're introducing robots, RPA solutions.
Oh yeah, actually we're not so much RPAs because we're trying to. We do that for the legacy systems because there we sort of have to patch them, but rather we're building processes that go through the entire, all of the agency, and try to build from that instead of patching things on top with RPAs. That is the general gist of it, to not go too deeply.
So automation and data sharing, making data available for decisions is a topic here. Johan, you represent a retailer. Are you also using AI to help us consumers choose the right products? Or
Yes, of course we do. But that is the easy part. I mean, having consumers, thousands, 100,000, millions, generates a lot of data. It's not the tricky part to guide you to this nice dress, or even remember you next time. It's not the problem. The problem is to make sure that the dress is actually possible to find based on data from the suppliers. And that's a total different business. We have around 1,200 suppliers, and they deliver data in all different kinds of qualities. And most of them are not good enough at all. So there you need AI to find picture or picture recognitions, but also simple text to be able to read text and say, this is red, but actually it says blue. Or this is blue, but it looks like red. And very, very, very easy thing to secure that you have the data. If you don't have data, no one will even buy your things, and we can suggest things for you anyway. So that is the trick. And that is the absolute biggest challenge.
Maybe we could actually assist you with the picture recognition.
Yeah, but
Yes,
that will
it
not.
actually goes into what you're working on, and we're also working on building a really, really small framed metadata structure,
Yes.
which starts on text, of course. We use the same structure on images and everything. So I think, in a way, we should be able, by all these AI possibilities,
We are.
to figure out
But
what's the color, what's the size, what's the
but then we come to next problem.
pattern.
Yeah, then we come to next problem. Black and white or gray. Okay, what is white and what is black and what is gray? What is marine blue, dark marine blue, and what is black? We are talking about so nice differences. So actually, sometimes we need to we have a BI interface to actually pinpoint by human people what is black and what is gray and what is white.
So what you're saying that you
We
have
check,
to
we
have
control
you
it.
have to have human
control.
interaction to see that differences.
We control.
Okay.
Each day we have a set of people, customer care and salespeople that actually goes in and make 100 pictures and see, yes, they're all black. No, this one is gray.
So the
We need to
technology
check
is
the
not
AI
there.
on top.
Okay, so the technology is not there yet to.
Or we do it wrong, but we have
okay.
double.
I have an 86-year-old former colleague. She was a royal reporter. She knows 50 shades of blue. I mean, she knows
Yes.
all the blue colors the royals are using. I can.
Yes, but that it is
She
important.
can support you.
Yeah, but we do the same actually. We check our AI afterwards.
So, Geir, you mentioned earlier that you have started or come a fair bit into the cloud migration. But what is the biggest challenge with the cloud and moving to the cloud and building cloud-native application infrastructures?
I would say there are more opportunities than challenges here. I mean, I can't really see another way of on a direction of going than going into the cloud. But we do have some. Well, I would say it might be challenges with. We have 12, 15 people working in Norway, 12 people working in Dhaka and Bangladesh. And we might have some difficulties with GDPR and Schrems 2 and DPI and all these DPIA and all those things because of they are working in another legal area. So that might actually be at sometime be a problem. So we've been discussing this with our lawyers and lawyers of Amazon to see if we can find a way to sort this out. But it could actually be, I think, if you look into the legal possibilities for authorities in Bangladesh, I think they can actually go into the offices there and say, can you please open your computer and show me? And of course, that would not be GDPR compliant. So that might be. We might have to try to find a way how to sort this out. But we might actually have to move a part of our business all the way to Europe to be on the right side here. But I mean, we'll probably spend another couple of years working on this because we're probably not the only company that have this challenge. Yeah. So I think that would be, if you look for challenges, I think this would be one of the few things I would be a little bit anxious about.
So GDPR and legal legislation is something to look into when moving to the cloud, at least.
Yeah, we are spending, more money on lawyers than development for the time being. So it's
interesting that you move into the cloud, but because what we have seen also that to move to the cloud is very costly as well.
Yeah.
So
moving is costly, but we are saving money on a daily basis.
yeah, but also
after.
being in the cloud is also well costly.
Yeah, it's probably more costly than I expected, but it'd be more people consuming, at least if we were not.
But how do you? Okay, because then we're coming exclusively into how we're treating the data, secret data and confidential data and open data. That is also one of the questions that we are talking about when we move into the cloud, especially, when we have a big country that can claim that data could be theirs. So that's a tricky question.
But I would like to get back to the cloud cost discussion because it's an interesting discussion. Some say that moving to the cloud is cheap. Some say it's very expensive. So it appears as if you have different experiences from this. on one hand, Gabe, you said that, I mean, you said you process a lot of data when you introduced AI tools, but and that costs, of course, money also in the cloud. But you also said that if I had to purchase all those services myself, just to do like 2 days of processing, that would have been also hugely expensive, of course.
And the one of the former CTOs at NTB before we went to CDO, that was he had a backup of all the picture library in his closet, and every second month he drove like 2 hours out of Oslo to this mountain
I like that.
place where he like where he sort
Back to basics.
took the new backup, took it back to his closet. So he knew, I mean, if somebody is blowing this mountain up, I've got, it was probably 100 million pictures back then, and it was like, I got it. It's in my closet. I mean, it's like, that's also a cost.
Yeah, of course.
But I think it's easy to get on board, you know, and use these services in the cloud. But over time, when you're getting to be more of a complex user, a complex company, we have seen that those services is not enough. And because you have to follow, you know, that cloud provider's roadmaps and things like that, and you have to wait for those kind of new services. And when we see that there is other vendors that already have it, you know, then it's getting quite tricky, and then it can be quite expensive.
But I don't think it's black and white.
No, but that's
It's
what I
very
want to
grey.
say. That,
I
yeah,
mean,
I agree.
we pick.
Yeah.
We have both our own and in all the 3 different cloud.
That's why I was, you know, saying can be.
And of course, I mean, working with a large American company could also be at some.
Yeah.
At
No,
some
but I
point,
agree. So I think it's not.
I think the problem will grow.
Yeah.
Yes.
So Daniel, you work for a governmental agency. I guess that you have all kinds of issues with moving to the cloud. But yeah, so if there's something you want to comment on this, or shall we just drop
Well,
that?
we're not even having this conversation. So, we have something called Schrems too, and that's puts a plug on all the discussions. But actually, another question I would like to ask the panel. I mean, there are a few things that we've been talking about for between 5 to 10 years. Among those is the cloud. I mean, everything has been the cloud, something or other conference for the past 10 years. We've been talking about big data. Now, we actually don't talk about that as much anymore as we used to. And of course, because in the last 5 years, the more have been talking about AI. But not much is happening. I mean, AI, we're starting to see I'm saying the first implementations. We're actually seeing it in practice. What is the next step? I mean, are there new technologies emerging, or are we just being mature within these
I think
3 frames?
We are getting more mature. We have more knowledge about what we do right now. I think that is the reason why we don't talk about it so much anymore. It more, you know, it's more obvious that is in place for some companies, especially for us. So that's why we don't talk about it so much.
Yeah, you also had a comment.
I think a lot of people have been talking about AI before it was really AI. It was more like some algorithms doing stuff. So it's like, but I think we're moving in the right direction. When we talk about big data, I mean, when you saw what we start to work on in 2016, 17, when it's like we start to be able to control enormous amounts of data sets, that's actually where we are moving into. I think that's where we find our business for the future at our news agency. I think if we can figure out how to sort all this information and make it accessible for each and every of our customers and their end customers in the end. I mean, I think if we have 170 different Norwegian media companies using our content on a daily basis, they can have something like 5 million end users. And we need to help our customers to find that end users with content that is relevant for them, or with a suit that works with that person. So I think we will, even if we don't talk about big data, I mean, we work with big data, and we have to work on it for a long time. And for my company, it's the survival or the death. If we control it, we can grow to the skies, to the cloud. Or if we can't fix it, I mean, we will probably fade out as so many other companies.
Interesting.
Because there's a question here that I'm thinking a lot about. You're talking about, okay, we have all of that data. We don't know what we know. And big data was the solution to that. But even when we have made data available, I'm not sure that we have learned what we know.
Oh, but that's another question.
Yeah. So how do we have a lot of data? How do we actually make sense of it?
Yeah. But
Isn't that
yeah, but that that's the reason why we're talking about data integration. We are now in the journey of data fabric and implement that kind of solutions. Especially in my group, that is in the front of that. And that's what we see, that especially within the integration area, it's going to be quite a huge impact, because we're going to see that we will have smart integration. When I'm saying smart integration, it's not that we have smart solution. I mean smart integration like smart data or AI, and that kind of things, And then we're talking about ontology that you and I, Fredrik, have been talking about before, and then we're using big data solution, because you have to have a stream of data, But we don't just talking about data or time series data. We're talking also about non-clean data, that is not in time series, like pictures, there's and how a picture is related to another data entity,
That's a very interesting comment, actually, because we talk about AI, we talk a lot about big data, and we need a lot of data to train the AI software, right?
Yes.
So that's sort of related to each other.
But going back to your question, I mean, all this technology we have is coming back to the user, come back to the brain.
Yeah.
This is my back to basic.
Exactly.
We will not be better without growing our mind and growing our way of working in iteration. So we can all, I mean, I remember WAP. We had that 6 months and then it disappeared. But we learned something for next step. So back to basic. It's the human being, it's the brain, and always finding someone that is better than yourself to grow the organization and do these iterations with a whiteboard, because we need to learn and need to exchange, not protect.
That sounds reassuring, Johan, for us at Red Pill Impro working with the knowledge industry, that our brains will still be sort of afterthought.
It is for sure the goal, by far.
I agree.
So we talked a lot about different technologies and so forth, and it sounds to me that AI and big data is really matured, and it's really something you're already working with to some extent. But Stefan, if I ask you then, based on AI technology and data-driven decision making, when will we actually start seeing self-driving trucks on the road?
I might be the wrong person, representing Scania for that question, but actually there are trucks already from Scania that are on the road right now. Even they are not, in commercial perspective, they are in test perspective. So we have them already driving in Sweden. So they are already existing. So we are already there. What Scania is looking at, now I'm not presenting R&D, so you have to remember that. So, but we are looking at this smart transport system. So we're building a transport system and going into that business, and the truck will be just a component in it. So the truck will not be our main product anymore. That is something like, when I was working in Ericsson, we went from selling boxes, hardware, to more of a solutions and software and features. So Scania has put out that roadmap as well. So, but that is, in the future. But yeah, that's in the future. But that is what Scania is talking about. That is what they see. The journey for the company.
Yeah. And Daniel, you mentioned a subject already. And with all this digitization going on and automation, will there be any jobs left in the future, and where will they be in that case?
I still think there's going to be a lot of works for the people who have a high level of abstraction, who can think about the big abstract problems. There's always going to be work for that, because I don't think everything can be realized by an AI implementation. I'm pretty sure of that. I mean, it took us 40 years to make robots even see objects. And even if they get a lot smarter, we have an interaction with the world as humans that technology have a lot of way to go before they can even come close to us. So we're going to have a lot of interesting problems to solve. And remember, most of the problems that we solve, technology basically is easy. It's people that are hard. And that problem is always going to be there.
Thanks, Daniel, and thanks to all of you. That will have to be the last comment in this panel discussion, as our time is up. I would like to thank everybody of you for taking the time to be here today to take part of this discussion in our gathering and share your thoughts on digitization post-COVID. I have really appreciated it, and I'm sure that everybody listening has gained some valuable insights into how you think and how your organizations are thinking with regards to digitization moving forward. So thanks a lot for taking the time to be here.
Thank you.